Hello, and welcome to this brief overview of Canvas features and the layout that we recommend for instructors in the College of Education and Human Development for using Canvas with students. My name is Lynn Delorme, and I'm one of the instructional designers on the Digital Education and Innovation team. In order to access Canvas, we recommend that you use the main web address for Canvas, canvas.umn.edu, and you can share this same address with all of your students. When you log in at canvas.umn.edu, you will reach your Canvas dashboard. Let me give you a brief tour. In the center area, you see a colored square or tile for each course that I'm participating in. You will see a list that is specific to the courses that you're involved in. This list is tailored to each person. On the far left side, you have this maroon navigation area. This is the system navigation. It will be visible regardless of where you are located in Canvas in terms of whichever course you're looking at. You will always be able to see this maroon system navigation. In particular, I want to draw your attention to a few of the areas that you will also want to make sure that your students pay attention to when you are orienting them to Canvas. And we do recommend that instructors spend a few minutes during the first session or in the early weeks of meeting together with your course, providing a little bit of a walking tour of Canvas and your course so that students are getting the most out of it and so that their participation meets your expectations. So first is your account settings. If you click there, you will see an area where you can customize by putting your own picture. You will also see an area to check your profile settings, the settings for Canvas for your account, and then in particular I want to draw your attention to the notifications area. We encourage you to encourage your students to set this up. I'm going to click here briefly so that you can see this screen. Within the settings area, you can specify for each possible event that could happen in Canvas, you can specify how often you are notified and whether or not you're notified by email. There is also a mobile app for Canvas that students can make use of, and if they set their notification preferences appropriately, the Canvas mobile app will also notify them when something happens in the course. For example, if you post an announcement or you hand back graded work for their review. Let's return to the dashboard and take a look at a few examples of course sites to help you get up and running. To access any course site, simply click on the title of the course site. This is an example of what a course site looks like when it's empty and contains no content. You may have a course site that looks like this, or you may have a course site that has already had some content imported into it. Let's spend just a moment getting oriented to the layout of a Canvas course site. On the far left, you have this white navigation bar area. This is your course navigation, and you can customize the order of the links that are available here and whether or not they're visible to students. This central area is where your course content will be located if you populate your course site with content. And then over on the far right, we have a number of menu choices as well, and we'll explore some of those as we explore Canvas further. So let's look at a Canvas site that contains some content, and in another tab I have a course site that contains our CEHD Canvas template. Our team has built a Canvas template as a way to help instructors get a quick start on building a course site. We have pre-populated the course with some ready-to-go placeholders and some pre-authored information that we hope will save you time and effort and also be useful to your students as you're all becoming acquainted with Canvas. Canvas uses the term module to describe a container or a segment of information or content. So the screen we're looking at right now is the modules screen. In this case, we have set this modules screen as the home page for this course. So both the home link on the navigation bar and the modules link on the navigation bar will take us to this same screen. So Canvas uses this term module to describe what we see between this dash line and this dash line. So this week 1 is a module, Week 2 is a module, week 3 is a module. So we have organized this template structure into weekly modules. You should organize your structure into modules that match the pacing or the structure that you describe in your syllabus. In the case of this template, we've organized it by weeks, but any module can be titled anything that you'd like it to be titled. So for example, we could, instead of titling these by week, we could title these by topic area, by session, by theme, by lesson, or by unit. And to change the titling of a module, we simply need to click these three dots to access the edit menu to change the title. Within a content module, there's a placeholder for your course title and welcome. We have also authored a Getting Started page, and we'll visit about pages in just a moment, but this is a screen that contains additional information. You can add to the information that's written here or edit any of it. We have populated this with some content we think might be helpful to many instructors. To make changes to what you see on this screen, simply select this Edit button. Return to the home page. We have also included a link in our CEHD template to a course help and support page that we author and maintain. This includes a listing, a menu of tutorials that your students may need in order to learn how to use Canvas. And if you direct your students here as part of your course orientation, then you can tell them to take advantage of this information, and then that would be Canvas training that you would not need to provide to your students because we have provided it here for them. We also have a link to additional technology support and then some useful policies and contact information for services that students may wish to take advantage of. In the course template, we've also included an Ask Questions About the Course discussion board. This is a place where students can post general questions and you can answer them here for all of the students in the class to see. The idea behind this forum is that it can become an FAQ for the course. If students post here and you post your response, then it might reduce the amount of traffic you have to field in your email inbox answering questions repeatedly from multiple students. We've also included an overview page for each module in the template. This is a place where you can add additional information for students about what topics would be covered, learning objectives, links to readings, links to videos online, links to other websites. If you would like to use the CEHD template in your Canvas course, let us know and we can help you apply it to your course site. Now let's take a moment and look at a course site that is based on the CEHD template but has been tailored for use with a specific course. So this is a tailored Canvas site. You may recognize some similar structure with the CEHD template, but the template has been modified. Some of the titles had been adjusted to suit a particular course curriculum, and that's how we would recommend you use the template, is to tailor it to your particular course. So I've retitled the first module to match the title of the course, and I've retitled the Getting Started screen or page in order to match the messaging that I want my students to encounter when they come into the site. And let me show you this screen. So this is using the content page feature of Canvas, and we really like this feature. It's very powerful. As you can see, a content page in Canvas can contain various levels of headings, text, images, and also links to other information. It can even contain embedded videos. And linking in Canvas, editing a content page is very easy. Let me take you to another content page in one of the modules in this course. Let's go to this overview page. And as I mentioned before, we set up overview pages for you. We have populated them very lightly with some placeholders, but the idea is that you would customize those pages to suit your needs. So in this particular case, I've added some text underneath the overview heading. I've embedded a video, and this would be a great way if you were delivering instructional videos, for example. This would be a great way to link them into your course site. I've populated the learning objectives, and I've also added another section, a next steps section, which can be really handy, especially if you're teaching a hybrid or an online course. Students come to the end of this screen or this overview for this unit or this week of the course, and I've included for them a bulleted list of all of the tasks that they have to be sure to take care of. So it takes the guesswork out for students. They do not have to try to determine how to move forward or what the elements of the week or the module are. I've itemized them here for students to help keep them on track. To edit a content page, I simply need to select the Edit button in the upper right-hand corner. And that will bring me to a new screen where I can make modifications to what is included on the content page. There's an area where I can change the title by simply typing over what's written here and modifying this information. In the text editor, I can change information by typing new information or taking advantage of these menu bar options in order to add additional features or format the content that's listed on the content page. But in particular, I want to draw your attention to this area on the right. This is called the content selector in Canvas, and this is a place where I think the power of Canvas really begins to show. So for example, if I was going through this document and I wanted to add a link to an assignment that I had built in the course already, I simply need to add text into the text area for the assignment. So let's say, for example, I want to tell students to access an assignment. I simply need to type the words that I want students to see. Then I select them with my cursor, and then I can go over here to the content selector and select the assignments option to see a list of the assignments that are already in my course that I have built. So for example, if this was the assignment that I wanted to use, I click it, and then this item becomes a hyperlink. And when I save the document, students will be able to come and click this link to be taken straight to the assignment. The same is true for files. So let's say, for example, that I needed to link a document in. Again, I simply need to type the text that I would want students to see, and then I can come over to the files area. I can either use a file that I've previously loaded, or I can select this link to upload a new file or upload an additional file into the system. Let's say, for example, I wanted to link in this document. I select it, and again, this becomes a hyperlink. This text editor and content selector are available in a lot of different features in Canvas. So once you become comfortable using them, you'll be able to use them across an array of features within the Canvas system. Let's return again to the module screen to talk about a few additional features. First of all, you'll notice on the module screen that each item that's listed in every module is accompanied by an icon that is either green or it is a white circle with a slash mark through it. This is the publish or unpublish indicator. Items that are unpublished are indicated by a circle with a gray slash. That means the item is visible to you as the instructor, but because it is unpublished, it is not visible to students. Items with green check marks would be available to students or visible to students. To publish or unpublish an item, simply select the icon. It's like a toggle switch. So click it once to activate, or click it again to unpublish the item and make it invisible to students. To add a new item to a module, simply select the plus sign symbol that is associated with a particular module. And so you can add any number of items to a module. Let's take a look. If I click the plus symbol, I get a pop-up menu, and in that menu is a drop-down option which shows me the various things that I can add to a module. I can add graded assignments, I can add quizzes, I can add file attachments, so documents, PowerPoint slides, additional kinds of files. I can add one of those content pages, and the overviews are an example of that feature. I can add a discussion board, and this would be for a text discussion activity. I can add a text header, and that would be a visual element that would help provide some organizational structure to my module. I can include a link to an external website, or I can choose an external tool. There are some other software products that have been developed by third-party vendors that do integrate with Canvas. In order to choose an item, so for example an assignment, to add to a module, I can either select a pre-existing assignment that I've already built, or I can select new assignment, title it, and then select the Add Item button. New items go to the bottom of a module. These dots at the left side of the title are sort of like Velcro patches. I can pick them up to drag or drop this assignment or activity that I've added to my course to a new location in the module, or even drag it to another module if I wish. To begin editing that assignment and configuring the settings, I simply need to click the title to be taken to a screen where I will see that familiar edit button. Clicking this button will take me to another screen that should be familiar, again with the title area, the text editor, the Canvas content selector, and then additional settings options that are appropriate for the assignment. And each feature that you add to a Canvas site will have a screen that looks similar to this with additional setting options or configuration choices you can make that are particular to the functionality of that feature. There's one additional Canvas feature that I'd like to spend some time highlighting for you, and that is the Canvas Syllabus feature. And used in concert with the traditional syllabus document that you may be accustomed to authoring for your course, you really get a lot of potential impact and access to some really time and labor-saving features of Canvas. To access the syllabus feature, simply click the syllabus option on your course navigation bar. Now I'm going to go back to my previous course site example because your syllabus, if you have not worked with it, may be empty or unpopulated at this time. So I'm going to click the syllabus feature in this empty Canvas course shell to show you what it looks like the first time you come to see this feature. At the top, you'll see an area with a paragraph in it that's titled Course Syllabus. And this area also includes that familiar Edit button. So that's a cue that you can add content to this area of any type that you wish. And I'll go into more detail in a moment. Underneath, you see another heading that says Course Summary. And down in this area, if you add assignments and graded activities to your course site, this will automatically begin to populate. So let's take a look at this in action. I'm going to return to my sample course site, and in order to access the syllabus feature of my course, I simply select Syllabus off of my course navigation bar. Now on this next screen, you'll see something very different than what we were just looking at. The course syllabus heading is still there, but you can see that I've populated this area with some helpful information for students, including a photo of myself and some contact information that is handy for students. There are three ways I can include my traditional syllabus into this interface, and I've shown all three ways in this example. My recommendation would be that you choose one that you prefer, not all three. So one option would be to include a link to your syllabus. Another option would be to recreate your syllabus within this space by copying and pasting it in. And a third option is to embed your syllabus into this area. So here's the traditional syllabus document that I have embedded into the screen. Again, choose the way that works best for you. To create the syllabus content, select the Edit button at the top right corner of the screen, and we will again return to that familiar interface where we have a text editor and the Canvas content selector. So for example, if I wanted to add my traditional syllabus document to the screen, I would simply need to type in the words that I want students to see, highlight them with my cursor, upload my syllabus file into the files area of my course site, and then when it appears, I need to simply select the document and then it will link to the file that is my syllabus. When I click the Update button, all my changes will be saved. At the bottom of the screen, This site also contains assignments and activities. So let's return to that course summary heading, and now you can see how it has populated with a listing of the assignments and activities that are in my course, and they are listed here in chronological order by due date. This is very handy for students. They'll be able to come here at a glance, see what's coming up in the course, and stay on task. This is done automatically, so you don't have to do any extra work to make this list appear. You simply need to create assignments or activities or graded events in your course, attach due dates, and this list will take care of itself. So this course summary feature is pretty nifty, but in addition, the Canvas calendar works in concert with the graded events in your course and the events associated with due dates and the activities with due dates to give you even more bang for your buck. So let me demonstrate. Let's go to the calendar link on the system navigation bar. That takes me to the Canvas calendar. Now this screen looks very similar to Google Calendar. You'll see a listing for a given month of all the activities in your course and activities across all of your courses if you're involved in more than one. This will also be true for students. Assignments or activities that are passed will be represented with strike out text, and items that are upcoming will be listed. The calendar is color coded. On the right side, you will see a listing of all the calendars that you have access to, and each one is indicated by a specific color. You can choose a color by selecting the three dots and choosing the color that you prefer for a particular calendar. So each user of Canvas has an individual calendar and then a calendar for each of the courses that they're involved in. To make a calendar visible, simply select the square associated with it on the menu, and to make it invisible, select it again. So items that are grayed out, events associated with those courses will not appear in your calendar. Items that are highlighted and have a colored tile associated with them, those events will show up in your course calendar. Now, what I really love about this is that if you have established assignments or activities in your course and you need to change or update due dates, it's super easy. All you need to do is pick up the item, select it, drag it to a new date, and now the due date for that activity has been changed. Not only has it been changed in the course calendar, it's also been changed in that syllabus list, and it has been changed in the actual assignment itself. So I can drag and drop and change it everywhere in the Canvas system. So it's super handy and very labor saving for instructors. Now you may be wondering, how do I get this information into my Google Calendar? A lot of us at the university use Google Calendar. We also encourage students to use Google Calendar to stay on task. Over here on the lower right side is a link to a calendar feed. If students take this link, or if you take this link, copy and paste it, and take it into Google Calendar, there is a place where you can add a calendar by URL. And if you paste this URL in, then Canvas events will begin to appear on your Google Calendar. And that's very handy for staying on task. Keep in mind that the first time you link this up, it will take about 24 hours for the Google servers to begin communicating with the Canvas servers, so events won't show up for about a day or so. But once they do, then the synchronization is pretty rapid, and you'll be able to stay in sync between your regular appointment calendar and the events and activities in your course. Also, I should point out that in the upper right-hand corner is this toggle to add an event. So to the Canvas calendar, you can add an event, an assignment, a graded assignment, a to-do item, so a task you don't want to forget about, or an appointment group. And this feature is particularly handy if you want students to be able to sign up individually or in small groups for time slots, either to meet with you, to meet with the course TA, or even to choose a time slot to do a presentation in class, for example. So it has a number of handy features here that I strongly encourage you to take advantage of. Let's return again to our sample course site to look at a couple of the feature options on the far right-hand side menu. If you'd like to see how your course will look from a student point of view, there's a very handy feature. Select the Student View button to alternate your course display between the instructor view and the student view. When you do access that option, the screen will turn pink, so you'll have this banner across the bottom that will notify you that you're looking at it through the student view. And this will allow you to go through the course features. You can participate in quizzes, you can select various activities, and participate as a student to get a really robust preview of what your course will look like from the student point of view. To leave the student view, simply select the button in the far right corner. Also, if you are looking at the student view and an item is invisible that should be visible, be sure to double check your publish settings, and remember also that an item contained in an unpublished module will be invisible even if it is published. So don't forget to publish your modules, or the contents of those modules will not be visible to students. Finally, if you're interested in using the CEHD template for your course site, if you're working with an empty course shell and you'd like to begin with the template as a basis, simply choose the Import from Commons option. That will take you to the Canvas Commons area. This is a community-built library of available shareable resources. So there's lots to search through here, but specifically to find the CEHD template, select into the search window and type in CEHD and will be one of the first results. Simply select the course template, choose your site from the menu of courses. The menu that you will see will be dependent on the courses that you're enrolled in or have access to, and then select the import button. The process of importing just takes a few moments. When you return to your course site, when you navigate back to your course site, you'll see the template components installed in your own course site. When you feel that your course site is ready for students to begin interacting with the content and the activities, select the Publish button. This will publish your course site and make it visible to students so that they can begin logging in. There's a lot more to know about Canvas. Canvas has an array of features, so let me leave you with some information about how to move forward in building your course site in Canvas. If you access the Help option on the System menu, you'll see a number of choices for how to get support if you run into technical difficulties. Also, let me draw your attention to this option to search the Canvas guides. When you click that link, you'll be taken to a screen which includes video guides, and there's a particular part of that menu that is tailored for instructors, including an overview of a number of core features of the system. In addition, our team has developed a resource to help you learn more about how to use Canvas. If you go to our website and choose Getting Started with Canvas from the Support menu, you'll find a link to our CEHD Getting Started with Canvas course site, and this is a public-facing Canvas site that you can access without needing to log in to learn about the basic features of Canvas and to get access to more guides and information for using features like assignments and gradebook. You may also contact your IT fellow or a team member for additional support. Email deiteam@umn.edu.